all the games I used to play in my younger, wilder days. The game of clubs and tees had never crossed my mind.
Welcome into another episode of the Turn Fantasy Golf Podcast. I'm Andrew Putters. This is Joe Nicely from Rotoballer.com, lead golf editor up there. Reconvening after a wild weekend. We got the Amex Golf Classic we can talk about, Joe. We got playoff football. We got Ozark making its season 4 debut. Peaky Blinders right around the corner. It's time to put Netflix down. We got the NFC AFC Championship, which we're going to talk about a little bit about how the Farmers Open here has been pretty smart about scheduling going forward. So first of all, Joe, let's get the cat out of the bag. Let's talk about the NFL for a second here. What about the last 2 days of football? Those 4 games, man, just great. I mean, the first 3 ended up on walk-off field goals to win. Titans doing what the Titans do best, throwing the ball into triple coverage with 16 seconds to go. Unbelievable. Tom Brady, was probably a second greatest comeback of all time, ties it up, and then somehow they don't guard the best wide receiver in the whole NFL and let him go 80 yards uncovered and gets tackled at the 19-yard line with 40 seconds to go. Good job for Matt Stafford getting to the NFC Championship. And then last night, Saturday night, is Aaron Rodgers done in Green Bay? Nobody knows. San Fran looks like they're playing with total conviction with that defense and no mistake offense football. And then last night, probably the greatest fourth quarter in the history of the NFL, or especially in the playoffs. Joe, what's your thoughts on all that?
It's crazy, man. This is a golf show, but we just love sports in general, especially NFL football. Do a ton of fantasy stuff. Do some Draftkings over at Rotoballer for NFL. So been really plugged in this year, and just an amazing weekend of football. Maybe the best weekend of football I can ever remember, AP. That Kansas City Buffalo game last night, definitely one of the best games I've ever watched in my whole life. Just kind of a bummer that Josh Allen didn't get a chance to answer and get the ball back. But yeah, man, crazy. The NFL's great. Loving it. Looking forward to last couple of weekends of it. And as you mentioned, the Farmers, pretty smart move, man. This one starts on Wednesday. It runs Wednesday through Saturday this week. So make sure and have your lineups adjusted and ready to roll on Wednesday morning. A little different. Kind of throws the regular research routine off, but really smart move by the PGA Tour. I think this is a marquee event for them. Certainly one of the bigger non-major tournaments of the year. A lot of people would argue it's kind of the real start to 2022. So I think it's a smart move. Kick it off on Wednesday. We'll wrap it up watching some Saturday evening golf and roll right into football on Sunday. So really excited for this one, man. You and I, we've talked about it a lot. We love this golf tournament. Really good golf course in Torrey Pines. U.S. Open held there last year, so it's certainly a top-notch golf course, and much, much better than the joke that we saw last week at the Amex.
So let's just say you're not going to put LaQuinta Country Club in your top 5 for the PGA Tour for the year.
It's just man, don't even get me started on it.
Well, let's just talk about it a little bit.
Don't like that event at all, man. It's not. The stadium course, the PGA West Stadium course is not a bad golf course. There's tons of birdies out there. Guys can go low, but there's also like double and triples out there. So it's actually a really fun course to watch. But they do this Joker Pro-Am, like we're going to see next week at Pebble. And it's just ridiculous. They played over 3 courses. You have no idea what's going on. You don't have shot tracker on 2 of them. The field's a joke. So, I mean, if you want to have a tournament, play 4 rounds on the stadium course, and let's get on with it. I mean, I know the history behind it, the Bob Hope deal and all that, but we're just in a different era. I mean, it's like next week at Pebble Beach, we're going to one of the top 5 landmark courses in the world, and we got to watch Bill Murray dance around. Instead of it's ridiculous, man. Instead of having a great golf tournament at Pebble Beach every year with the world's best players, we're watching Larry Fitzgerald.
Be a 12 handicap, be a 12 handicap and shoot 78 and wipe away the field every week.
So yeah, man, it's just ridiculous. Kind of easy to get lost in football last weekend with the Amex going on. Not to take anything away from Hudson Swafford, big win. Any win on the PGA Tour is a big win. His second one there in the last few years. But yeah, man, looking forward to the Farmers to say the least. This is definitely this one and the Phoenix and Riviera, man. I really love the West Coast swing, but these pro-ams just are tough for me.
Yeah, Hudson Swafford shoots eight under on the final round. Comes from basically out of nowhere to take over, and which kind of makes I care less who won this tournament, but Tom Hoge is going to be around for a while. He's got a pretty good game. We like him on golf courses where maybe low scores can be made, where driving is important. And he was right there. Swafford really came out of nowhere. I was kind of hoping after Swafford won at 250 to 1, we wouldn't see people blasting all over Twitter about, I nailed this one. But yeah, sure enough, there still was a few out there that claimed to pick him. But Swafford, three wins, one in 2017 at the Career Builder Challenge, one at the Punta Cana Resort Club Championship, and then of course the American Express this weekend. Also won one time on the Korn Ferry Tour. This guy's got a lot of talent. Anybody that's won 4 professional events, 3 on the PGA Tour, obviously got some talent, but just to me seems like a guy that should be more there regularly and isn't. So not to get off on a tangent talking about him on this show, because I feel like this might be one of the only times he's ever mentioned, but should not seem like with his game that he should be around more.
Probably. Definitely got tournament winning upside, as you mentioned. Won this tournament a couple times down the last few years. Won at Punta Cana pretty recently. So definitely a talented guy. Was a big time college player at the University of Georgia. So ton of talent, man. But I just think the talent is so deep on the PGA Tour that, it's tough to be consistent, tough to be consistently good. Definitely tough to consistently win. So, just a talented guy, one of these couple dozen guys that are really talented, we're going to see pop up, once every year or two and fight to win a tournament and keep their card. But it's jam packed on the PGA Tour right now, man. Just so much depth and so much talent. And I think the window is getting shorter for these guys, for these veterans. We're going to see some careers getting shortened a little bit, I believe, because I think it's going towards youth. We're going to see these guys more competitive early on in their career, and I think you're going to see the window close a little bit on them faster. So, a nice win for Swafford. It's one of those events where, you saw Zach Johnson up there, Brian Harmon up there. One of those events where those guys can still go out there and compete. A lot of that's due to the depth of the field, but yeah, man, Swafford's a talented guy. And he's a guy we can keep an eye on to grab cheap on some weeks.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he's going to be down to 6,000 quite a bit. Price might be a little high for the next few weeks, but he's going to be down there. So I agree. He's definitely be a guy that I think should be around. So anyway, congratulations on his victory at the Amex this weekend. Now moving on to what you've already proclaimed on the Twitterverse. Big Boy Golf starts this week. This is one of our favorite tournaments year in, year out. Farmers Insurance Open, mainly because it kicks off the real golf. I feel like we're deep into the beginnings of this West Coast swing, and we always see usually great weekend golf on this tournament, especially if we get just the slightest bit of cooler weather out there on the southern tip of California. Farmers Insurance Open is held at Torrey Pines State Park. It's a little different setup this week. They play 18 holes on the south course, 18 holes on the north course, followed by 36 holes for the weekend on just the south course. South course historically is quite a bit tougher, usually about 2.5 shots. Both of them were designed in 1957 by William P. Bell and William F. Bell. Not sure if they're related, brothers, parents, dads. I have father and son, have no idea. South Course was renovated in 01 and 2019 by Reese Jones, and the North Course was renovated by Tom Weiskopf in 2016. Many great amateur tournaments, and of course, the U.S. Open was held here last year. But many great amateur tournaments have been held here over the years. Greens, strangely enough, bent grass on the North Course, Pro-Am on the South Course. This is one of the reasons is this tournament is special for me is number one is guy from Knoxville has won it. So, we watched it pretty regular because of that. And then he came in second the next year, losing in a playoff. Also, we had a vacation out there a few years back where I got to play the South Course. Great experience, and recommend that to anybody on the bucket list. South Course, like I said, is quite a bit tougher. 7,700 yards, 7,200 yards on the North Course. North Course, I'm going to say this right here. As far as when I'm breaking down stuff, Joe, when we talk about these two courses, I'm mainly going to look at stuff that has to do with the South Course only. North Course is, if we just got to get hot on that side and not lose the tournament there. That's kind of that's my thoughts on the North. So I'm just going to concentrate statistically on the South. Joe, your thoughts on the golf course and this tournament's history?
Yeah, we're very familiar with this golf course, very familiar with this tournament. So it's definitely a known quantity that we're kind of breaking down this week. You mentioned the two course rotation, playing the North and the South. I think you're right, Andrew. I think we do have to focus most of our research on the South Course because, guys that make the cut are going to be playing there for 3 rounds. But can't underestimate the importance of that one round on the North, man. You absolutely have to take advantage of that round on the North. We've seen these guys go out and shoot, mid to low 60s, and it carries them into Sunday. So I think, yes, we need to focus on the South. Certainly the better course of the two, the much tougher course of the two, and where we're going to see 3 rounds. But that north round these guys get on Thursday or Friday is so important to where they head into the weekend at.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah. I just, like I said, we just want to get hot and not want to lose the tournament over there. You're going to see
it's tough. We don't have, it's another one of those deals. We don't have strokes gain stats and shot tracker on the North. So we're kind of guessing a little bit. We've got some strokes gain total stuff we can look at over there, and obviously we can go back and dig through rounds over there. So it's a little tough to even try to research it to the extent you can the South, but I'll definitely give a little bit of a look to guys that have played well on the North because I do think it is important.
I got you. This tournament, Farmers Insurance Open, originated in 1952. Didn't move over to Torrey Pines until the 68. And like I said, there has been a different style of winner that's won here in the past. We got Ben Crane's won here, which is an outlier, and really Brent Snedeker's won here twice, which is a little bit of outlier from the other champions, Joe. But like you brought up before we started recording, Brent Snedeker's went on record saying that he puts really good on Poe because he puts the ball so firmly, which 2021 Patrick Reed, he's a firm putter. And we talked about before the show and the week after the show, I brought him up that it wouldn't surprise me if he won by 5 shots, and that's exactly how much he won by. And let's be honest, that just kind of just proves that if you get hot with the putter, anything can happen. But year in, year out, you're going to see a lot of great iron players play well here. If you look at the champions, let's just go through the last few champions: Patrick Reed, Leishman, Rose, Day, Rahm, Snedeker, Day, Stallings, Woods, Snedeker, Watson. You go down there, you got Watney, then you got Woods. And, take those guys off. Look at the second, the guys that finished second in this tournament. You see a ton of great ball strikers. So great ball strikers here. It's almost like, these got big greens. We're going to give ourselves opportunities. And that's what I like about this golf course. It's a ball strikers course. If we get a little bit of weather, you're going to see scores in the single digits, not the double digits, which is awesome. Brent Snedeker one year shoots 600 to win this tournament, goes out and shoots 67, and nobody shot under par in the last 20 groups. because it started raining and wind blowing. I love this golf tournament. Maybe just because it follows the Amex every year. So therefore this is the tournament where a bunch of the top guys in the world come back to after they play in those first 2 events in Hawaii, Joe. I'm just excited. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
And probably too, I mean, let's be honest, Tiger Woods dominated here when I was a kid, so it was fun to watch every year. We can get right in the slate if you're ready, if you have anything else you want to say about it.
Yeah, man. I think we're all pumped. If you're listening, we're excited. This is a great week. We're going to try our best to get you through this slate, help you all we can. And we're pumped, man. We're fans of golf and ready to watch this one. So let's get in the slate, AP.
Okay, 10,000 above. Daniel Berger, Xander, DJ, Matsuyama, JT, John Rahm. John Rahm, hands down, has had the best career here outside of Tiger Woods, and he's only played here about 6 times, I think. Let's just glance real quick at his last 5 finishes, Joe. Tied for 7th, 2nd, tied for 5th, tied for 29th, 1st in 2017, which I believe was his first win on tour. And he won the U.S. Open here last year, Joe. There's not anything much else to say than that right there. I don't really know what to say.
Not much you can say, man. He's a top ranked player in the world, number 1 player in the world at the moment, and he's got the best course history of anybody in this field. The only player in this field with a sub 70 career scoring average in this event, a 69.45 career scoring average in the Farmers. The only one under 70 teeing it up this week. You mentioned he won the U.S. Open on Torrey South last year. Playing great golf. We saw him come really close at the Century. Didn't play great last week. Had a few things to say about the setup at the Amex AP. I don't know if you caught that video, but this is more Rahm's type of track, man. There's a reason he's played well here. This course rewards length. It rewards great drivers of the ball, and it rewards players with great all-around games. And Rahm's game really doesn't have a weakness. Ranks out first in this field in strokes gained total and strokes gained tee to green over the last 50 rounds. He's extremely long off the tee. Finished first on the PGA Tour in total driving last year. He's a terrific iron player, good short game. So if I'm paying up, Rahm's my number 1 priority this week. He'll be popular. So, I mean, there's some game theory stuff you can kind of get into as far as pivots. And there are certainly some guys up here you can look at. This is a great field. Got JT, trying to get things going. Doesn't play this event very often. Played the U.S. Open, obviously, last year, but hasn't played a Farmers. Matsuyama's got a solid history here, coming off that big win over at the Sony. So it'll be interesting to see how he follows that up. DJ rarely plays this event. He's also going to be teeing it up. Got a couple guys this week that don't usually have the Farmers on their schedule, but are playing. This is going to be DJ's first start of the year. Wasn't in the Century, which is kind of weird. So we don't really know where his game is. We don't know what to expect form-wise from him, but the record's not extensive here and not great, but this seems like it'd be a good fit. We know he can certainly handle the length of the golf course. And then you got Xander, who's below Rahm for me as my favorite up at the top. He's a hometown kid. His kind of struggles in this event are well documented. Missed 4 of his first 5 cuts as a pro at Torrey, even though he played his high school golf there. But really found kind of the sweet spot last year, man. Tied for 2nd here in the Farmers. Had a top 10 in the U.S. Open. So Xander's kind of got things figured out. I really like him on this golf course. So Rahm and Xander at the top for me this week.
It's Rahm or nothing for me. If you look, I'm a big tournament history guy, course history guy. And, the outlier of Xander, like I said, Matsuyama playing decent here, but not great. Xander's, tied for 2nd here in 2021. Other than that, if you even go down as far as I'm full fade mode all the way down to the low 9s on this slate, Joe. Other than Rahm's far and beyond the best in this field of course history and talent and recent form. And we've said in the past we love DJ, and DJ would make sense on this course. However, we like DJ whenever he's trending up, and really it's pretty predictive, I feel, when he's trending up, Joe. And he's just not doing that. I hate to defer off of what we've already talked about, or what was subject to hand is 10K and above, but looking on down too, you know, Bryson should have success here. He's missed 2 cuts out of the last 5 years. He hasn't played here in the last 3 years, which is surprising because the US Open was here last year. He didn't prepare here the week of, or the week leading up to it. Sam Burns is decent, but you know, whatever. Brooks Koepka's missed cut 2 of the 2 times he's played here in the last 5. Same for Scotty Scheffler. We know this is not a course fit for Jordan Spieth. Sungjae M's decent, but I'm looking at Willie Z, Tony Fenow, and Mark Leishman before I'm ready to pull the trigger on another golfer, Joe.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, man. I mean, you hate to write off a guy like Bryson DeChambeau, especially, I mean, let's think back, Andrew. Bryson DeChambeau had a stranglehold on the U.S. Open, man. Staring down the back 9 on Sunday, looking at his second U.S. Open victory on Torrey Pines South. But just let it get away from him, man. Absolutely exploded. Forceful ejection there down that back 9. I don't even know where he finished. He tumbled down so far. But, you know, you hate to completely discount him. He's a guy you kind of have to respect. But he's also one of those guys that I, you know, especially if he starts gaining a little steam this week, I'll definitely be fading. Just because I'm not as big on Bryson as most. Especially on this golf course. I don't love the fit. But, you know, there's definitely upside there. The guy can go out and win a tournament. Sam Burns, man, playing as good a golf as anyone down the swing season. Looked pretty sharp over at the Century. Hadn't had a ton of success here yet, but this golf course would seem to be a great fit for him, man. We've seen him play well at Riviera, so you think eventually it's going to translate here. Had his best career finish in last year's Farmers at T18. He's long off the tee, great iron player, great putter. We know kind of Bermuda is his thing, but I think he can handle this POA as well. Brooks rarely plays this event, missed his last couple cuts in the Farmers, but played well in the U.S. Open. So, you know, how do you kind of balance that? Not really sure. I'm still on the fade Brooks in non-major events, so I probably won't be going there myself. Scotty Scheffler, another guy who on paper this should be a great fit for, missed the cut in both of his 2 career Farmers starts, but played well in the U.S. Open. So I like this golf course for Scotty Scheffler. And Sung Jae's always solid. Jordan Spieth, we know, has a magical short game. And when you start looking through the winners of this event, man, a Snedeker, a Jason Day, Patrick Reed last year, really, really good short games. So I don't think you can discount Jordan Spieth, even though the course history isn't there like it is with some of these guys. Willie Z, I really like. I was on him last week. I did make a couple of Amex lineups, wrote him up, really liked him, and he came through, man. He kind of looked like the old Willie Z. We saw a 62, around the 62 in there last week. Had a T7 on this golf course in the Farmers last year, and this is kind of his bread and butter, man. Really, really long off the tee. He does well on these type of golf courses. We've seen the runner-up at Augusta. We've seen a top 10 at Wingfoot, top 10 at Kiowa. So, you know, if the golf course is long, Zalatoris jumps kind of to the top of the charts for me. And then you got the guy that's just behind Rahm from a course history perspective. And that's Tony Fenow. Got an unbelievable record here. 4 top 6s since 2017. Never finished worse than T25 in any career Farmers start. He's gained strokes off the tee to green, and on approach in both of his starts this year. So even though the finishes haven't been great, I'm ready to fire Tony up this week.
I like Tony Fenow. Like you said, course history. Willie Z is interesting to me, just because this is going to be the first course he's played this year that we got a fit for him, we feel. And Leachman's success in the past. That's why my thoughts are on that range, or, you know, like I said, so John Rahm and then those 4 guys and nothing for me. I agree with you.
I think you can get one of those guys in there with Rahm. not to cut you off, man. Didn't mean to. Just I kind of been playing around with roster construction, just because this is a compressed week, man. We kind of got to go into hyper mode with this thing starting on Wednesday. So I kind of already started playing around with roster construction a little bit. I think you can go like a Rom and 9K guy, and you're down kind of sitting in the mid to low sevens, or you can lean more balanced and try to get a couple to even 3 of these 9K guys in. And we'll talk about some 8K guys, and obviously as we work our way down the scale. But, I think you can go Rom, and, if you want to start like a Rom Fenow, you can do that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. I feel like that's going to be a pretty popular starting point though, throughout.
Yeah, for sure.
Moving on down the 8K range, Joe, from top down, Taylor Gooch, Corey Connors, Patrick Reed, Matt Wolf, Max Homma, Christian Bisenhut, Maverick McNeely, Ryan Palmer. Not one of those guys that everything we've said, it shouldn't make sense, but he's had a great career here, along with can disagree with actual facts, and that's Patrick Reed, last year's winner. So those two guys, of course, history-wise, is a full-blown green light. I'm not sure why. But I mean, let's be honest, I like Corey Connors is the best player in this little grouping here, so I like him as well. I think Taylor Gooch is getting down a little bit more down in that price range where we want to start pulling the trigger on him. He's not quite there yet. 8,900, still a little high, but last 4 months he's played great golf. So what's your thoughts on the 8K range?
I think there's a lot of ways you can go down here, man. Certainly in GPPs, I think you can start looking at a lot of these guys that maybe, bring a little volatility to the table, but also bring some upside to the table. You mentioned Taylor Gooch, had a T3 back here in 2019. I like him on tough golf courses. I actually prefer him, on a golf course like this versus last week. Kind of wonder, man, if he's running out of gas. This is going to be his 4th tournament in 4 weeks, AP. Obviously he's a young guy, he can handle it, but he kind of looked out of gas last week to me. Didn't look amazing at the Amex, and kind of that weak field, expected a little bit more out of him. So I don't know. I'll TBD on Gooch for me as we go through the week. Corey Connors, we both always just really like playing Corey Connors. I think this is a price tag where you can play him. The history here doesn't blow you away, a T37 and a T29, but the ball striking's so good that you almost always have to put Corey Connors into consideration, especially on, POA greens. I think you can look at him. Patrick Reed, we know what he's capable of. Won here last year. It wasn't a fluke though, man. Had a T6 here in 2020 and a T13 in 2019. So that win didn't come out of nowhere for Reed. I rarely play him, but I've actually tried to jump on there a couple times already this year at the Century and last week. But he's one of those guys, man. You just kind of got to keep sticking with him because he's going to pop up for a big one. I think you can definitely go there this week if you want to. Matt Wolf. I watched you and Spencer last week. I know you were pretty big on him, man. He didn't play great at the Amex, but I really like this golf course for him better. I do think there's a lot of volatility there, a lot of unpredictability. He withdrew here last year. He played so bad in this tournament, he quit golf for about 6 months. So you don't really know what Matt Wolf's going to do, but I think you can certainly fire him up. Had a T21 here in 2020, and he played really well in the U.S. Open. We know what he did last year on this course in the U.S. Open. Made a ton of birdies on a very difficult track. So we saw what he did at Wingfoot. So he can certainly handle these long, tough golf courses, no problem. Max Homma, good course history, California kid. I think you can play him. There's some crossover with Torrey and Riviera. He won at Riviera last year. And you mentioned Ryan Palmer, man. The course history's great. Still sneaky long off the tee. Finished 35th on the PGA Tour in driving distance last year, AP. So I think that might go a little ways to trying to figure out why he plays so well here. He also plays the North course really well. We touched on that in the intro. That's something that we're not going to dig too deep into, but he's 5th in strokes gained total on the North course here since 2017. A couple other guys. I mean, really this whole 8K range, man. But Zadenhout we like. Mav we like. He's a West Coast kid. Puts well on POA, has a couple good finishes here. So this 8K range is one that you can really dip into, man, in GPPs.
Yeah, 8K range is pretty interesting. A lot of guys we like. Maybe hasn't had great success here. A lot of guys that we can't really put a statistical reason behind it have had success. So the 8K range is going to be interesting. Moving down the 7K range, Joe, I'm going to throw out a few guys, and I want you to knock them down or pick them up, and then you can throw out a few. Justin Rose had great success historically here, not the last couple of years, but it seems to maybe be trending upward. Joaquin Needham has not had great success here, but he should. Jason Day over the years have had success. Tom Hoagie, Brent Snedeker, we mentioned, is a solid player here, and he's won twice. Past that, Joe, I'm going to drop down all the way to Patrick Rogers, and a couple of guys here in the sevens. I'm full fade on. That's Charlie Hoffman and Phil Mickelson. Full fade on those two. Joe, bring up a couple of the 7K guys. See and this is the value range.
There's no way you're playing Phil under any circumstances. You just cross that one off. However many people are in this field, just subtract one. You're not playing Phil. Rose, man, it's tough. I mean, I get it. I kind of like Sneds this week. We talked a little bit about Brant Snedeker. I kind of like him. And you could argue those two are kind of similar players in a similar situation this week. But that $500 makes a big difference. It makes me really favor Snedeker over Rose. So, if I'm kind of going with the veteran there, I would lean Sneds and take the savings. Let me throw out another guy at you, Andrew, guy you like to bring up from time to time, Francesco Molinari. There at 7,600. Great course history. He's played well in the Farmers, played well in the U.S. Open last year, looked good at the Amex last week. What do you think about him, man? I know you kind of like taking a stab on Molinari from time to time. You looked at him any this week?
I want to, but man, he's got me gun shy. I feel like I've thrown my life on the line using his name several times last year, or maybe 3 times last year, and it just did not pan out for me. But I do love him on this golf course. It makes a lot of sense. He plays mistake-free golf, and with these big greens, he can kind of get close to these pin placements and do his thing around the greens, Joe. I mean, he's got to be still one of the best players in the world around the greens. And he's a good putter. So I do like him. I'm a little gun shy on him particularly.
Yeah, I was looking at him a little bit earlier today, and I kind of thought of you because I know you tried to hop back on there last year a little bit, and kind of now it looks like some things are coming together for him maybe. So didn't know if you had a chance to look at him. I'll probably let ownership dictate that for me. If he's popular, I'll definitely be out, but. If it looks like he's going to have low ownership, I might hop on there. A couple guys, man, you mentioned Neiman. I think he's just really talented at this price tag. We haven't seen him play this year yet. But at 7,700, love his length, love his ball striking, capable of doing it. Siwoo, kind of interesting. Played really well, man. When you start looking at his game log, he's popped up for some strong finishes. Pretty decent course history here. Nothing great, but I think you can certainly give him a look just for upside. At 7,800, the guy that's got top 5 upside. We know he can miss a cut, but I do like that kind of high end that Siwoo brings to the table. A couple guys in the mids I think you can look at. Cameron Tringali, this is the lowest price tag we've seen on him in a very long time. Had a top 25 here last year. Pretty interesting salary saver. A guy that always seems to burn us, but I'm back in again, man. Luke List. Like the way he's playing, like the course history, like the fit. Anytime, a big ballpark where ball striking comes into play. I mean, you can bring up Bethpage Black. We've seen Luke List play extremely well there. Has a T10 and a T12 in his last 4 Farmers starts. Lanto's another guy I think you can look at. These mid-sevens are fairly interesting, man. Lanto's course history is really good. Had a T7 here last year, had a T12 back in 2018, and he played well at the Amex. So I think you can give Lanto a look. Aaron Wise is one of those guys that we've touched on a couple guys this week that on paper should play really well here, but hasn't. we saw a great swing season from him. Kind of reminds me of Sam Burns a little bit. Really long off the tee, great iron player. Just kind of doesn't always have things going, but he looked really sharp in the swing season. I expect a big 2022 from Aaron Wise. So I'm kind of interested there, even though the course history is bad. We mentioned Sneds a lot. I think you can look at Mito down here, Mito Pereira at 7,400. And it's pretty solid. Runs out a little bit. Course, as we would expect, starts getting a little bit thin. Below Sneds, it gets hit and miss for me. You mentioned Patrick Rogers, who I like on the West Coast and on POA. A couple of really high finishes here. But after Sneds, it starts getting a little bit dicey for me.
Yeah, I agree, Joe. Real dicey in the 7s, and it doesn't get any better. Doesn't get any better once we get to the 6s for me, Joe. You got some guys like Kyle Stanley, Scott Stallings that just jump off the page to me about historically playing well here, but that doesn't mean that I'm green lighting those guys this week. I don't really see much of anything just jump off the page and says, hey, pick me. Do you got anybody down here in the 6K range that you're going to be green lighting?
There doesn't feel like any slam ducks down here, Andrew. I think there's definitely talented guys. This is a deep field. There's talented guys you can play, especially in GPPs. When you're making multiple lineups, I think you can mix some of these guys in, if you want to get aggressive, with like a John Rahm up top and another big time player. You can look at these guys, but there's not anybody jumping out that I'm relying on this week. Adam Svenson's been playing well. Has a T35 in the Farmers back in 2019. He played in the U.S. Open last year as well. Has a little experience. Grayson Sigg is finally coming along, man. We've talked about him a lot. Finally starting to show that talent here his last couple starts. He also played in the U.S. Open last year, so he's got a tiny bit of experience at Torrey, even though he doesn't have any Farmers starts under his belt. Davis Riley, ejected Sunday, man. Really talented guy out of the University of Alabama. I think he's going to be a big-time player on the PGA Tour. But, man, that's a tough ask for him to bounce back. He played well at the Sony, playing really well last week in top 10, top 5 contention, and just blew up Sunday. So getting a little bit of Will Gordon vibes there, man. I just don't know how he's going to bounce back this week off that round Sunday, but he's a really talented guy that I think you can look at. Joseph Bramlett down there at 6,700 is a guy I had circled. Had a T18 in this event last year, and he's played really well this year. So I think he's a guy that does stick out to me down there that you can take a shot on. Sahith Theegala is very long. This is a 7,700 plus yard golf course. So, distance does help. So I think you can look at Theegala. And the last guy I had noted was Sepp Straka, 6,300. We know he's definitely inconsistent, can hit and miss, but we've seen some signs of life from him lately. Couple low rounds this year already, and he's played pretty well in this event. Has a T32 and a T13 in the Farmers over the last 3 years. So, if you really want to deep dive, Straka's pretty interesting down there at just 6,300.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have trouble, really having any faith in anybody down here in the 6s, Joe. Matter of fact, when we get later on this show and shoot our dart play, it's not going to come from the 6K range, which it normally does for me. So it's just going to be really hard to find anybody down here that you can trust. And I know it's hard to find anybody any week that you can trust. But like I said, the field's so deep. There's a ton of players in the 6K range this week. So, and if you're wanting to roster John Rahm up top at 11 too, it's going to be you better be putting in some lineups because you're throwing out some consistency on that lower end.
Yeah, I feel like that strategy was very viable last week. You saw a ton of guys at the top of the leaderboards, DFS leaderboards that just stack Cantlay and Rahm. And I wrote them up in my core 4 last week, both Cantlay and Rahm, and kind of said it could really be a core 2. And I think that fits a little better with last week's event than this week's, because there is such depth kind of in the mid range. So I don't know that you have to do that, but I think you can. There's some good players down there in the 6Ks. You're just taking on a lot more volatility, than you really have to, than is necessary this week. I mean, you look how deep this 9K range is, this 8K range, and even the mid to high 7K range. I just don't know that you have to go stars and scrubs or go fishing down there in the 6s this week.
I agree. So who is your dart play this week, Joe?
I'm gonna toss Sneds out there. I think I feel like we've talked about him quite a bit. Played well last week. Actually played well at the Sony as well. Had a pretty solid outing there. We know the course history. We know he loves putting on POA. He's streaky. I kind of feel like you got to grab him when he's hot. There's definitely some volatility there with him as well. By no means a slam dunk, but at 7,400, he's probably the last guy down the salary scale that I really feel strongly about. So I'm gonna go Sneds. What about you, man? Who you like?
I'm going to vet as well. I like 7,900. Justin Rose. He won here about 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, he hasn't showed us a lot in the last 3 years. However, this course ideally fits his game, Joe. I'm not saying I'm loving him to win the tournament, and I don't think you'll get that great at odds, honestly, even though because he's where he's at in this where he's priced on DraftKings. But I definitely think top 10 is pretty reasonable. Top 5, and you might get a decent price on those. My heart play of the week, I hate to say John Rahm, but I just don't see any way around that he don't win this tournament. It's hard for me to put faith in a Zalatoris, Leishman, Fenow, Sungjae M. That goes, and in between that group of guys and John Rahm, I have zero faith in any of those guys, just based on course history alone. But I mean, what happens if Hideki gets hot with a putter? He's going to win again this week. So that's where I'm at with that. I'm going to say John Rahm, but with the caveat that I'm going to be interested in seeing who Will Zalatoris is paired with at some point on the weekend, to be looking for a possibility where, let's just be honest, with his skill set on this golf course, it makes a lot more sense than a lot of other people in this field. And if we see him paired up with another top-ranked player, such as a Jordan Spieth, and really even for me, maybe a JT or Daniel Berger, I think his style fits this golf course better. So I'm interested in seeing those matchups if it's possible on the weekend.
Yeah, can't disagree with the thing you said, man. I'm so in agreement. So I'm just going to go with Willie Z. It's my heart play. I really think he kind of ran out of gas down the stretch last year. We saw some pretty bad outings, honestly. Some outings like we hadn't seen out of him. And just think, man, trying to get on the PGA Tour, had a huge rookie year, a huge breakout moment at the Masters with the runner-up. And then, you're playing in the Sanderson, you're playing in Mayakoba. It's the end of the year, you're young and you're rich. So I think he just kind of ran out of juice, but I really like what he did last week. I think that round of 62 in the second round at the Amex, he came out a little bit flat. Shot 62 in the second round and played well, finished strong. So I think that's going to kind of give him some positive momentum. And I just love his game on these long golf courses. So I'm back in, man. I'm going Willie Z. That's my heart play.
I like it, Joe. I like it. So Willie Z and Snedeker for you, Justin Rose, John Rahm for Andrew. What do y'all got going
on? Let's give our boy Spencer a shout out, AP. Before we wrap things up, man, Fantasy Sports Writers Association. Spencer got nominated for Golf Writer of the Year this past week. So huge congrats to Spencer, who hops on here with us a lot and who we kind of think of as a member of the Turn family. So huge congratulations to Spencer. I know Pat Mayo's nominated, and I'm not sure the other nominee. I'm sorry, but huge congrats to Spencer and good luck with that. Hope he takes that one down. definitely well deserved. You can find his articles and content over at rotoballer.com. I think that's where you were going. So we hope you'll go over there and check it out. Use Spencer's promo code TOFF when you sign up over there, get a discount.
Yeah, and if you like what you hear from him, man, he's going to be on with us a lot more this year than he has in the years past, and hopefully some other guys, friends of the show and in the golf world. So, yeah, I think we're ready to wrap up. Joe, anything else you want to talk about the Farmers before we head out?
Just excited, man. I know you like this one. It's so cool that you got to play Torrey Pines. So I know you like this one, and I do too. Just looking forward to it, man. I think it's going to be a good week of golf. Kind of cool, the Saturday thing too. The Saturday
I agree. So yeah, reminder, guys, this tournament starts on Wednesday instead of Thursday because of the AFC and NFC championships coming up on Sunday. Great move by the PGA Tour, and yeah, let's get after it. I'm Andrew Putters. That's Joe Nicely. You have listened to the Turn Fantasy Golf Podcast.
Already hit 3 in the lake. It's gonna dry.